Segment 2, Golden Black Live, joined by Jimmy Hyams, a Tennessee Volunteers coverage leverage. You got to be young enough that you've only been doing it for a couple of years, I'm sure. But Jimmy, welcome to the show, and joined also by Tom Dienhart here for segment 2. Jimmy, welcome, and it's going to be a sea of orange we anticipate in Nissan Stadium come December 30th. But tell us just a little bit about where the Tennessee Vols are from their practice standpoint and how excited they might be about playing Purdue in this bowl game.
Well, they've had a handful of practices so far, and from all reports, they have been fresh. They've looked good. The coaches have said they've been really crisp in practice, so they like where they are in terms of practice. I think they're excited about playing Purdue, an opportunity to play a Big Ten team, an opportunity to play a team that not only went 8-4, but beat 2 teams that were ranked in the top 5 when they played them, Iowa and Michigan State. And so I think Tennessee's looking forward to the challenge. Now, Tennessee in its last 4 bowl games has played Big Ten opponents and won them all. And whether they can do that again, I don't know. Obviously, Purdue has a way of playing at an optimum level when they play good teams, highly ranked teams. But we'll see what happens. But I do think it benefits Tennessee that 2 of Purdue's best players, maybe their best offense and defensive player out. But this Tennessee offense is they go at warp speed. It's going to be interesting to see how Purdue deals with Tennessee's up-tempo.
Yeah, Jimmy, I was at practice today, and the defensive coaches talked about trying to simulate that speed in practice. They know they can't, but they're trying their best. You talked about Purdue missing David Bell and George Karlaftis. It's 2 All-American players. From a Tennessee standpoint, Jimmy, will they miss any key personnel? Is anybody opting out for the Vols?
The only one that's opted out is a cornerback by the name of Alontae Taylor. Taylor had an ankle injury. It affected him the last few games of the season. So he's going to be playing in the Senior Bowl in Mobile, Alabama in late January. And he has opted to, I think he's having surgery, though he didn't say that. I think he's having a procedure on the ankle so that he can get ready for the Senior Bowl. That is the only one that's going to be out. He is Tennessee's best cover corner. And, of course, that was the guy they were thinking, that's who we're going to put on David Bell. Now they don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, it's a brand new world in this game of opt-outs in bowl games. That's for certain. It is going to change the landscape, certainly for Purdue. Tennessee, 180 miles it is from Knoxville to Nashville. Of course, Tennessee dominates the state in terms of interest. Purdue has already sold out its allotment, though I don't know exactly what that number is.
It was about 5,000.
Yeah, Tennessee has played twice before, I believe, in the Music City Bowl, and has basically been at capacity. Do you expect it to be a capacity crowd come that December 30th contest?
We've already been told it's a sellout. Now, I know how sometimes people maneuver numbers, but I do think it'll be a sellout. In the history of the Music City Bowl, there have been 6 sellouts. Tennessee's played in 2 of those 6. The Music City Bowl goes back to the late 1980s. So I would expect around 68, 69,000 at Nissan Stadium.
Yeah.
Hey, Jimmy, you're obviously a big Vol watcher. Tell Purdue fans what the Boilermakers need to do to win against the Vols on December 30th in Nashville.
Well, one of the things is they got to get off to a fast start. Tennessee led the nation in points scored in the first quarter. Yeah. And in fact, at one point, they were outscoring opponents 162-44 in the first quarter. Now, in the second quarter, that's been their worst quarter. And there's a theory that some of these defenses have kind of caught up to the up-tempo. Also, Tennessee scripts its first 25 plays. Maybe they need to script more than 25 because the second quarter has not been kind to Tennessee. So I would say Purdue to hang in there in the first quarter with Tennessee. Look, Tennessee scored 28 first quarter points against Missouri, 28 first quarter points against South Carolina. They actually had the lead against Georgia in the first quarter. So this is a team that gets off to a great start. The other thing is trying to deal with Hendon Hooker. I think he evolved into one of the 3 or 4 best quarterbacks in the SEC. Not bad for a guy that didn't start the first 2 games of the season. So that's another issue. And defensively, Tennessee plays a very attacking style. At one time during the season, they ranked in the top 5 in tackles for loss. They like to change the line of scrimmage. They like to shoot gaps. They like to put pressure on the opposing team on the offensive line, on the quarterback. Their sack numbers are pretty good, not great, but pretty good. They don't have one guy that's collected a lot of sacks. It's across the board. It's sack by committee. But that's what, and Purdue will need to protect Aiden O'Connell. If they can do that, I think he can have success in the passing game. But Tennessee will come after him with a variety of blitzes and a variety of stunts.
When Tennessee has struggled this year, and it has 5 losses, it's been an uptick season without question. But when it's struggled, what has been the struggles? Has it been defensive, not being able to stop folks? What has limited Tennessee? And of course, playing in the SEC is no picnic. We all understand that. But what has been that when they've had a bugaboo? What has that been?
It's primarily been the defense. And having said that, they did lose to Alabama. They lost to Georgia. They lost to Florida before Florida quit. So, and then they lost to Pitt, which won the ACC. So they lost to some good teams along the way. The other loss was to Ole Miss. There's no shame in that. That's a top 10 team. So my point is, the teams that beat them were really good teams when Tennessee played them. And the only asterisk is Florida, because Florida fell off the map. But Florida was pretty good when they played Tennessee. So they really, the games that they were supposed to win, they've done it. The games they were, quote, supposed to lose, they've lost those. Ole Miss was the one flip of the coin game that they didn't pull out because Matt Corral ran for 185 yards. Now, one of the defensive problems they've had, and this is not something Purdue can take advantage of it, they have really had difficulty with mobile quarterbacks. Wow. Whether it was Emory Jones running for 144 yards, whether it's Matt Corral running for 195, whether it's Bryce Young at that time setting a personal high for rushing yards in a game, it was only like 42, but that's the most he had gained to that point. They've really had trouble containing mobile quarterbacks.
Yeah, Jimmy, so often when you watch bowl games, you hear the announcers go, well, I wonder which team really wants to be here, which team wants to play in this game. To that point, what do you think Tennessee's motivation is? Do you think they're really hungry to play in this game? Or do you think, golly, we really don't want to drive 3 hours in our own state and play a bowl game against a Big Ten team again?
I really think Tennessee wants to play, and I'll give you a couple of reasons why. First off, they're under the cloud of the NCAA probation, or the investigation, I should say. A ruling has not been made yet. Everybody feels like Tennessee's going to get a bowl ban at some point. But you know what Tennessee said? We haven't heard anything yet, and we are not going to self-impose a bowl ban because, by golly, these seniors have earned the right to go to a bowl. So the Matthew Butlers and the Velus Jones and the Devontae Paytons, they want to play. So I don't think there's any question. The other thing is, I think they have developed a really good culture with this team. These guys enjoy football. They enjoy football practice. They like to go out there and play. And this offense wants to see, hey, can we score 28 points in the first quarter against somebody again? I think Tennessee is really motivated. And if they can get to 8 wins, given the fact, now think about this, since the start of last year to now, they've lost 45 players that could be on the roster. That's 41 transfers, and it's 4 players that Tennessee let out of their national letter. That's a whole lot of attrition. These players have played with a chip on their shoulder from people saying, you're not very good, you don't have enough depth, you won't be able to do this. A lot of people thought Tennessee would have a losing record, not be bowl eligible. I think Tennessee's motivated.
Yeah. Purdue fans are still reeling from 2018 when Auburn put 56 on them in the first half. And I think they're still scoring. So that Purdue fans have to get over that. Most of the guys, they have a few players that were on the roster at that point in time. Talk about a little bit about Tennessee's running game and a Hooker also finished second, I think, on the team in rushing. Jabari Small leads that running game. What do they try to do again? Is it a trying to gash folks in that scheme within the passing game? How does it look?
Well, what they try to do is in this up-tempo offense, they try to get to the line of scrimmage. They like to snap the ball within 10 or 12 seconds after it's been put in play, and they try to get the defense misaligned. That's what they do. They don't have a powerful offensive line. And in fact, their best running back, Tyon Evans, got injured, and he entered the transfer portal. He's better than Jabari Small. He's now transferred to Louisville. Hendon Hooker ranked 3rd in the SEC among quarterbacks in terms of rushing yards. He's a good runner, and Jabari Small is a good runner, not great. But what Tennessee does is they go so fast that they try to find you misaligned, they try to find gaps, and then they try to wear you out. That's the strength of their run game. They're not going to sit there. And look, one of the weaknesses of the run game, they have trouble on 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2, 4th and 1, because they can't blow you off the line scrimmage. But when they get into a rhythm, and I did this stat, and I'll go quickly on this. one of the coaches said, hey, when this offense gets a first down, look out, we're pretty good. So being the stat nerd I am, they had a first down on 106 possessions. They scored on 63 of those possessions, and all but 9 of them were touchdowns. So when they get a first down and they get this thing going, their offense is pretty hard to stop.
Yeah.
Alan, Jimmy's a Tennessee institution. I was on the radio show last week with him, and I asked him, Alan, if he was at the 1979 Blue
Yeah,
Bomb.
I was going to ask it too.
He wasn't. He wasn't. I was disappointed. I thought maybe he was there for sure. Alan was there, I think, Jimmy.
I was there. It's funny. I watched that game it's on YouTube, and you're of course watching Johnny Majors and Willie Galt and some great names. And of course, Purdue got into a big lead in that game and then Tennessee, they up 21-0. Tennessee scores 22 straight, and Purdue has to score in the last minute or two to win that game. But that is, I think that's the only time that the two teams have squared off. And yet, I think I do think from a matchup standpoint, Purdue will bring some things that will be, and you never know how teams show up in bowl games, just with that little bit of time in between and down that will make an interesting thing. Talk special teams, anything else from the return game that you see or from a kicking standpoint that if you're a Purdue fan, you need to watch out for with what Tennessee will bring to the table?
Yes, watch out for Velus Jones Jr. He's one of the best returners in the country. He is the leader in kickoff return yards in the nation for a career among active players. He was one of the leaders in the SEC in kick returns this year. He was one of the leaders in punt returns this year. He's the only player in the country, if I get these numbers right, to have 700 receiving yards, 500 kickoff return yards, and 200 punt return yards. He is really electric in the return game. He was really good at Southern Cal in the kick return game. He's added punt returns to his repertoire at Tennessee. He is the main one to watch. Paxton Brooks is a good punter. He averages over 40 yards a punt. Had a little bit of an off year, but he's a good punter. And in kick returns, as a kicker, Chase McGrath. He's a transfer from Southern Cal. He's an above average kicker. Nothing special there. He makes the ones he's supposed to make, typically inside 45 yards. But they're okay in the kicking game.
Time for one more. Tom, fire away.
Well, yeah, again, I got to imagine there's a lot of excitement about Josh Heupel.
Yeah.
I know it's been a carousel of coaches there the last 15 years or so, but it looks like Tennessee's got a good coach with an offense that's going to be fun to watch. And Jimmy, I don't know if you agree with me on this, but it sounds like this could be a ball game that features a lot of points and a lot of offensive pyrotechnics.
Absolutely. In fact, the first over-under I saw was 57, and I thought, what clown set that? The next one I saw was at 64. So I know where the money's going, and I'm going over. Yeah. I think there'll be a lot of points in this game. Look, Purdue can hurt Tennessee with the passing game. If O'Connell has time to throw, they got a really nice receiver, Milton Wright. I think Xander Horvath also adds something to their offense as well. So I think Purdue's going to put some points on the board, 24, 28, 30, whatever. I think Tennessee's going to score too. Both these teams may get to 30 points. So I see a lot of offense, but O'Connell's a really accurate passer, as justified by his completion percentage. Hooker's not on. Hooker right now, by the way, has a Tennessee school record for completion percentage in a single year at 69%. Now, depending on what he does in the bowl game, he'll either keep the record or lose it. He's also, as we mentioned, a good runner, good decision maker. He's a really good quarterback. I know Purdue has they've shown up on defense in a few games this year and played well. I think they're going to have trouble adjusting to Tennessee's high speed. So I'm looking for a lot of scoring in this game.
All right, you're still 13 days or so away from the game, but if you were going to offer a prediction, what do you see, Jimmy?
I would go with Tennessee, and I'm going to go in the range of 35-30, somewhere in that range. I think they're going to be a lot of fireworks, and I think that both teams will move the ball well. Some of that can be predicated, of course, by the weather, but as of now, if it's decent weather, I think we'll see a lot of points in this game.
All right, Jimmy, excellent stuff. We really appreciate it. A great analysis. Heck, you've written our opponent preview for our website just by what you've brought to the table. We appreciate that very much. And stay tuned. We'll be back for segment 3. Ray Davis will join us from BTN and Purdue basketball. As former Purdue basketball standout, he will take us home for the rest of the show. Jimmy, thanks again. Have a great holiday, and we'll look forward to seeing you in Nissan Stadium on December the 30th.
Thank you for having me, and happy holidays to you as well.
You take care, Jimmy.
Thank you. All right, take care.
That'll be good.